have been with. And we encourage you as well to join us on a Zoom link so for us to interact with the speakers, with sharing insights and also asking questions with regards to the topic directly to our speakers. And also, we welcome you our Facebook page and also our YouTube live for joining this webinar. Now, we have the first topic for today, which will be 10 ways to make sure your work skill readiness flourishes. So, the speaker for this topic is Vivek Khandelwal, who is a relationship, result oriented, and network driven professional with over 60,000 hours of experience in the consumer space across urban and rural retail, covering modern and general trade, e commerce, digital marketing, youth marketing, and influencer marketing areas. He possesses multi industry experience and is now serving as a mentor and trainer to the graduates and young working professionals community. So join us and hear what are the 10 ways to make sure your work skill readiness flourishes, and will be given by Vivek.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Phil, for that very, very encouraging introduction. Thank you so much. A very warm good evening to all the viewers from different parts of the world, whether on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, or on Zoom. It's really a pleasure to engage and interact with each one of you here. So first of all, it's a very, very interesting topic. The topic is work skills readiness. So one of the questions that will be there in your mind, or that might just pop up in your mind, is why this? So let me start by addressing why this. It's gonna be a roller coaster ride. So my suggestion to each one of you is have your notepads and pen ready so that you can make notes and probably also ask questions for yourself. Right. So with this, let's just get started. So why this? Let me address this point by saying that a lot of times people learn this the hard way. Now, what do I really mean by that? The moment I say that people learn this the hard way, what I really want to communicate to each one of you is a lot of times people lack the knowledge of how to react in different kind of situations. And the moment we talk about situations, it could be situations of personal life, professional life, social life. It could be a variety of different scenarios. It could be professional setting. It could be a college for if there are young students. It could be a setting in a college environment. It could be a variety of different engagements, say with a client, or for that matter, it could also be communications which is happening remotely. Now that we know the last 2 years has really been a roller coaster ride when it comes to communication and when it comes to remote working, we know the real power of communications. At this stage, if you guys can hear me clearly and if my speed is good, just type good in whatever platform that you're watching this. Just type good in the chat box, whether be it on Facebook, LinkedIn, or on YouTube, or even on Zoom. Just type good in the chat box if my voice is good and you guys are able to hear me very, very clearly. Awesome. Thank you so much for that engagement. Brilliant. Okay. The next point I want to bring forth for you is people lose their jobs a lot of times. Now, see, someone losing their job could actually happen on account of a variety of reasons. However, having said that, let me bring some quick pointers for you. A lot of times, people might end up losing their jobs on account of their unprofessional behavior. Now, the definition of unprofessional is very, very broad. However, what I'm trying to say is it is just a pointer for you. And the reason of that unprofessional behavior could be on account of, say, frustration, that these such kind of professionals end up being frustrated a lot of times, or they end up getting angry. Have you met and interacted with people who a lot of times are a bit short tempered on a see they such kind of people are always being noticed by HR and by other kind of people. However, they at a lot of times may not really realize that they are being observed so minutely. What's the impact of this? While the impact is very, very deep, they have to pay the price for that. And what's the price? Such kind of people are always pulled downward when it comes to growing positions. When people have to select for the leadership hierarchy and for growth in different at different levels within the organization, such kind of people are actually deconsidered, which means they are not really considered for those kind of positions. And this could actually happen on account of a variety of reasons. While I may have given just one example, it's a very, very wide topic, and just this point can actually take me a few hours to talk about. So just limiting this point here. Now, with this, I would like to talk about phases of learning. For each one of us, when it comes to workplace environment, there are different phases of learning. I'm broadly going to divide that into three of them now. One is learning, then there is, real unlearning, and then there is relearning. The moment we talk about the three phases, let's just briefly understand what's the difference between the three phases. The first phase, the learning phase, is all about gaining and acquiring new set of knowledge. And why does one really need to do that? One really needs to do this on account of these reasons. One needs to study, have a gather right set of experiences. One needs to be taught so that a person's ability to understand and relate to things and scenarios increases significantly. However, having said that, the other bit is why unlearn? Because a lot of times the kind of learnings that we have absorbed from different environments, okay, where be it school, be it college, a lot of those learnings were relevant in that environment for that purpose, but they may not hold any relevance today. It's like saying what we've done in the school, environment for gaining our degrees or for gaining the class mark sheet is not as much of relevance as we look at it from a real life perspective. So the entire angle, the moment we look at unlearning, is all of these that you really see on the screen. So a lot of times people have to, unlearn because you forget about things, or you don't want to remember those kind of things. You have your own set of preconceived notions saying this is something which is done only in this particular way. Are there better ways to do it? Probably yes, but you got to unlearn the old ways of working. Only then will you be able to learn and absorb the new set of things. It's like saying, are the mobile phones really operating the same way as they were operating 5 years back? Not at all. Does the mobile phone have the same set of features? No. There's so many different things that has really happened. Are the engagements with brands happening the same way they were happening 5 to 7 years back? No, that's not really the case, because things have really evolved over a period of time. So one has to ditch all of those set of systems and processes, which is not really fulfilling or serving the purpose as we speak today. So one has to leave the old methods of working. And then having done that, one has to then navigate into the path of relearning. Why relearning is very important? Because one has to learn something again. It's like saying, I always knew that this particular task is done only this particular way. A new person comes in, brings it in a completely new angle, which is probably a lot more innovative, a lot more creative. And this new angle can add a lot of vibrancy into the entire environment. And then this vibrancy is doing what? This vibrancy can add a completely fresh perspective. This vibrancy could be a lot more in sync with the current times. This vibrancy could actually help in diversifying your skill sets. It's like saying if organizations had to do everything the way they were doing 2 years or 3 years back, today there wouldn't have been any survival. The fact that we are today having this webinar where people from different parts of the world are sitting and engaging live in a engaging environment, that talks about diversifying one's skill sets. It's like saying prior to the pandemic, what is the percentage of teachers in the world who were very well aware about tech tools, or who were very well aware about using Zoom as a tool? So people were not aware. The fact that they had to learn all of those things the hard way themselves for them to engage effectively with the young minds. So it's important to relearn, to explore what lies ahead. Is it easy? Is it easy? No, it is not. It is not at all easy. It is tough. But one has to take more time, invest more time into oneself to make things happen. With this in the background, let me now share what does the workplace typically demand. The workplace demands some of these things that you really see on the screen. The workplace primarily, demands a lot of agility. A person who has a lot of agility, which means a person has agile mindset, a person is always willing to absorb new set of changes, bring in a lot of flexibility into his or her working style and pattern. All of those things are need of the hour. What was really relevant yesterday may not hold the same degree of relevance today. And that's where things a lot of times become obsolete. It's like saying what the kind of gadgets, IT gadgets or tech tools that we were using a decade back, are we using the same things today? No, not at all. Things have evolved and moved to a whole new level. Now, if you look at my own presentation, I'm not using the age-old PowerPoint presentation. I'm using a new, agile, flexible, creative tool. And it's a beautiful mind map that I'm using. And just imagine I'm able to engage with you so well. And that is the power of the user interface of a tool like this. Okay, doing things in a certain way, one has to be open to discovering new ways of learning and doing things aligned with the evolving objectives. Become the model. Become the model for what? Become the model of the right kind of behavior that organizations are really anticipating you to have. So say, for example, how a person behaves at home. The person is always trying to save electricity at home. Person is always switching off the air conditioner when it's not required. A person is always managing the resources effectively. It might appear to be a very, very small point. However, as per research, when an organization at an organization level, when they take initiatives like this, the savings could result in terms of billions of dollars, depending upon the size of the organization. So what appears to be a very tiny fraction of a pointer, it's actually very, very deep. And then finally, under workplace, what's also very important for one to understand is encourage team members to always come up with ideas, irrespective of the kind of position that you handle. What I've always seen, and I'm going to talk about it probably a few times, we always have to keep the inner child alive within us. The moment we keep our inner child alive within us, what really happens is the sense of curiosity and the sense of creativity with which we can do things is beyond words. That's the real power of doing things this way. Hey guys, until this point, if you're loving it, if you're enjoying it, just type loving it in the chat box. Whichever platform that you're attending this, just type loving it in the chat box. Yes, continue that. Just type loving it. Awesome. With this, it's time for me now to move to my 10 pointers. And here's the first point. The first point is professional approach. Okay, in terms of professional approach, how you appear in front of the office environment, or in front of your clients, in front of the set of people with whom you interact with, can actually bring a lot of difference in the minds of other people. Not only that, you feel a lot more confident about yourself, and your mindset is a lot more positive about the way you look at yourself and others. But in addition to that, your attitude is at a whole new level. Your ability to communicate is very positive and very vibrant. Your own self-concept, self-esteem, and self-ideals is amazing. What exactly is self-concept? Self-concept primarily means, how do you really see yourself? When you have to look into yourself, how do you really see and relate to yourself? Do you feel good about yourself? Do you feel that you have the ability to do things? That is what it primarily means and focuses on. Exhibit the right level of maturity, extremely important. A classic example is, you are sitting in a meeting with a few people are chatting, and then you get hold of your phone and you start to peep up saying, okay, there's a new notification, let me see what is the beautiful Instagram post that has come on my platform. So avoiding that becomes extremely critical. You got to have a very, very high level of passion, because passion can take you places. You ask recruiters, they always look at what is the kind of passion that a person really brings to the workplace. Working on your interaction as well as interpersonal skills, extremely important. And then finally, move beyond your comfort zone. One of the biggest traits when it comes to professional approach is, are you someone who is lazy, or are you someone who is proactive? Are you someone who is willing to always challenge your own comfort zone? If you are someone who is always willing to challenge your comfort zone, what will happen is, you will not stick yourself only to interact with a certain set of people. Now, let me give you an example. In most of the workplace environments, what happens? A lot of times people, form their own group, and they always want to, mingle with those set of people. It's important that you start to spend time with different people, because the moment you start to spend time with different set of people, the magic there is huge, because you get to understand diverse perspectives. Diversity comes in front of you. You get to engage with male, female, different mindset. A lot of people may not like your view, they may have differing viewpoints. So all of those things you can understand only when you start to spend time with such people. Be part of different teams. It's extremely important to have different kind of different kind of teams to engage with. It makes you learn differently. Always trick your brain. But the moment I say trick your brain, it's important for you to look at new surroundings, new people, engage with new set of people, because these people bring diversity, as I spoke earlier on. Break the habit pattern. You already know that there are a lot of habits which are not serving you anymore. It's like saying, my office is on the 5th floor, and every day I take a lift to go to the office. The moment you start taking staircase, just imagine that you are going to cover some 2,000 steps just with one travel, depending upon the number of stairs that the office, apartment or building may really have. So the point that I'm really trying to say is, habit is something that you have to break. If something is not serving the purpose today, you have to break that pattern. And that pattern is only possible once you are able to build that awareness into yourself. Okay, with this, let me move to the second point. And in the meanwhile, so Funke is asking, I have 15 minutes to present. To my understanding, Funke, I think it's 30 minutes. So I thought I'll just address that for you. Awesome. Okay, moving to the next point. The next point for you is attitude. Now, we all know what attitude is. We all know that we got to have great attitude. However, having said that, it is very easy to say, but it's extremely difficult and very, very challenging to implement. Because see, all of us prima facie know that we need to have positive attitude in the workplace, which means we don't have to talk negative. We have to always, all the time, we have to always look at crisis as opportunities, and we don't have to look at crisis as challenges and those kind of stuff. However, having said that, it's important that you develop this as a mindset, because saying is one thing, doing is another thing. The moment you start living a mindset like that, you will automatically start to feel this vibrancy within yourself, even when there are things which are not happening your way. Let me talk about behavior awareness. So, behavior awareness is how do you really behave within any given context? What is the kind of context that you have, and how do you really behave in that context? Let me bring a classic example of problem solving. This is one of my favorite examples. Imagine that there's a young working professional. Okay, let me take Phil as an example. Phil, I'm taking you as an example. Don't mind. I'm just generically taking you as an example. So Phil has recently joined the workplace, and Phil is actually thinking, okay, this is a new project, variety of activities. Phil is getting overwhelmed, and then direction is getting missed. Now, how do you really look at these kind of challenges? See, the entire point is, if Phil starts to look at one thing at a time, starts to break down that entire thing into smaller pieces, the probability for Phil to be a lot more comfortable is extremely high. So, Phil, this was just an example. Thank you for that. Okay, with this, let me move to the third element. Third element here is flexible under attitude. One has to have that high level of flexibility. Fourth example here is emotional intelligence. What is the kind of ability that you really have to manage your own emotions? A lot of times you might get to hear brickbats from people who are your near and dear ones, even in workplace environments. Are you someone who will break down emotionally? Are you someone who will get into depression? Or are you someone who will analyze it to ensure that you bring in corrective action into yourself? Which means your ability to take up constructive criticism has to be extremely high. Being inquisitive, you got to have that sense of curiosity. And the moment I talk about inquisitive, again, I have to give you a classic example of a child. So inquisitiveness is like building a solid foundation. It builds in curiosity. And the moment we talk about a child, the power of thinking with a childlike mindset is that their curiosity is to know anything that's happening in and around them. So they're always open to discover without any degree of hesitation. Plus, over and above that, they are always open to new approaches and new techniques. You give a gadget to a child and look at the kind of discovery that the child will be able to do. Something that adults limit themselves for becomes extremely easy for a child. So that's the real power of being inquisitive. Be a continuous learner. We are living in a world where everything is changing around us by the second. So if we become continuous learners, what will happen is we will actually end up becoming the ambassador of the new world. How do you really learn? What areas become important for you? It's what's very important is focus on what's relevant for you. In and around you, there are thousands of things happening. You don't have to become prey, or you don't have to become victim to the shiny object syndrome. Focus on what's important for you and stick to that. I would like to give a message to each one of you here with respect to what does the HR fraternity really think? Well, one of the biggest concern that the HR fraternity really has is, according to research and according to this fraternity, they believe that about 95% of the people, of the youngsters who join the workplace, they actually bring in challenges connected to attitude. Now the HR people say that we are able to train anything and everything connected to technical skills, but we can't train attitude. This is something that you have to bring to the workplace for that workplace to become vibrant. With this, let me move to the third pointer out of the 10, which is problem solving. While I gave a quick example connected to problem solving, let me go a little deeper for you. Why is problem solving really important? Well, it is one of the key role of the future leaders, because problems of the past are no longer going to serve for the upcoming problems of the future. Upcoming problems of the future are going to be very, very different. Look at who had thought in the world that the world leaders who took charge 2 years back will have to face pandemic, but these set of leaders have actually faced it. They know how to navigate and deal with a situation like that. How to really solve problems. What is the kind of approach that you take? As I gave an example while I related that to Phil, breaking down the problem into smaller parts becomes extremely essential. The moment you start breaking down problems, the magic that you are really doing to yourself is you are actually trying to understand each element. What are the set of elements that's there in your control? What are the set of elements that you need to pass to someone else? So once you have that level of awareness and that level of knowledge, your ability to manage these things can increase considerably. How do you approach any given problem? Problem can be approached in so many different ways. Problems could arise in the workplace. Problem could be, say, for example, in the area of operations. Like for example, the operations team is launching a new product. It could be in the area of supply chain, maybe movement of a new into a new territory, supply by a new vendor. It could be product, it could be service, it could be anything else. Or there could be HR connected problem, maybe conflict between team members or recruitment of new people, right? So all of these, so these are just examples for you to relate, saying what are the kind of problems that one may really face. What happens if one continues to postpone the problem? One of the biggest challenge that will happen is one will automatically, if you continue to do procrastination, it will automatically become bigger. It's like saying if someone hasn't, paid the electricity bill, say for 1 month, 2 month, 3 month, fourth month, what will happen? Automatically, the electricity department is going to disconnect the service. Now that's procrastination. Once the services are disconnected, then you go, it obviously has larger consequences. So this is one such example. Same thing is true for any environment. The moment you look at a workplace, someone who goes, an employee, the moment an employee goes on leave without any information to HR, what happens, right? Hell breaks down on the office environment, saying, okay, why is this person behaving like this? There's fundamentally an attitude issue with the individual. All of those things start to happen and come into people's mindset. Okay, and how do you really solve problems? You solve problems by breaking them down and, more importantly, addressing them timely. Okay, and being open to always learning new things. Explore the ideal approach to problem solving. So what is the ideal approach? Ideal approach is all about, identifying the problem, then defining the problem, then evaluating the problem. It's just like solving a puzzle. And then after evaluation, what becomes is important is what are the alternatives in front of you, and then what are the learnings that you can really draw. So problem solving is a healthy amalgamation of a combination of both logic as well as imagination. So with logic and imagination, you can try to make the best sense of the situation and then coming up with what is known as intelligent solutions. So that is how you typically solve problems. Okay, with this, let me come to the fourth element. Fourth element is self-management. Okay, the moment I talk about self-management, what does it really mean? Well, few pointers for you here is a lot of times people are working in workplace environment, but they don't have any sense of willingness to work. The moment a person doesn't have willingness to work, it automatically starts to reflect in the quality of work that people do. Their passion comes down, their opinion about workplace environment becomes a bit negative. They start to be active participant of gossips and all of those things. Not that these things are not done by people who have complete willingness to work, but these are just broad set of examples. See, what's very important when it comes to self-management is that one has to have the ability to accept constructive criticism. What is the meaning of constructive criticism? When someone is giving you a feedback, someone says that these are the set of things that went very well for you. However, these are the set of things that you could have done better, or these are the set of things that you can do better, provided you take care of these things. So it comes to you in an appropriate fashion. However, the language may or may not be suitable to you. So you have to have that ability and appetite to receive feedback. And a lot of times when people want to genuinely thank you for your contribution, what's very important is that you have to accept it as a feeling of achievement. Because that's also, see, accepting achievement is also an art, which a lot of times people miss out. So you got to accept it, saying, okay, someone is appreciating me. Let me accept it. I feel blessed at this moment. What are your daily rituals? What kind of rituals do you follow? Always allow yourself to look back, the moment on a daily basis, on weekly basis, monthly basis, and reflect all of your wins that has made you what you have really become. What can you do to develop yourself today? What is that one thing that you can do today to make yourself better than how you were yesterday? And understand that, know that whatever you are doing for whatever work that you're doing, what is it that you're doing for yourself and what is it that you're doing for others? And then also what's very important is do your research. A lot of times people end up giving promises in work environments. They're not able to follow those promises. So do your research, give your time commitments appropriately. That's also an art and science of managing yourself. If you don't manage that, the other point that will happen is you'll automatically create negative opinions about yourself. So that's one of the challenge. I would also like to end this point by saying be kind to yourself. It's extremely important. Always pace yourself appropriately. Set up milestones which are manageable for you. Milestones connected to a week, to a month, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, whatever. And I tell you, I have been a perfectionist for very many years now, and I have paid the price of being a perfectionist. I am completely away from that world now. I'm trying to be as much away as possible, because what happens is you always have this constant fear of discovery, saying, okay, this is the problem, that is the problem. So the moment you start to accept things, what happens is you don't feel burned out completely. See, someone who is not a perfectionist, someone who runs after excellence, that person will have a lot more energy compared to a person who is a hardcore perfectionist. So just keep this thing at the back of your mind, because I know that a lot of people in the world are perfectionists. So was I. So I'm being very, very vulnerable here at this point in time. Okay, so a quick check here, guys. I hope everyone is learning something. If you guys are learning, just type learning in the chat box. If you're learning something, you're enjoying this entire session, just type learning in the chat box. Yes, do that. And then this brings me to the next point, which is discipline. So discipline, we all know that discipline is about showing up on time. However, it is much more than that. Usage of your personal technology, the way you use it, do you know that we actually end up becoming victims of self-imposed distractions a lot of times? 100% we all are aware, but how do you really manage that? That management is where discipline typically comes in. Discipline of communication. How do you really engage with other people without reminders? It's like saying that I have given an assignment to a team member, and the team member has accepted the assignment that he or she will come back to me by the 30th of May, but the person completely forgets, and I have to chase again on the 7th of June. That is where there is a problem. Why does all this really happen? Probably because of a variety of reasons. Few of them are right in front of you on the screen. Laziness, it could be procrastination, lack of self-restraint. And then one of the biggest point is our minds are automatically wired towards pleasure. So we avoid any sort of pain. As human beings, that's how our mindset typically is. That we generally avoid pains, because being lazy and indulging is always, that's always something which brings us a lot of happiness. With this, I move to the sixth point, which is grooming. It appears to be a small point, but it's actually an important point. It's like saying that, is there a difference when two people come for a meeting for a face-to-face meeting, and one is having a beard, that person doesn't generally keep a beard, hair is shabby, and the other person is well groomed with, a well-worn attire, and everything is completely in order. Will there be a difference? 100% there will be a difference, because your entire perception of the way the program will happen or the way the engagement will happen will be very, very different, because it showcases your persona, it showcases your commitment, your dedication, and above all, your personality. So just keep that thing in mind. Moving to the seventh one, which is communication. Now, communication is what the workplace typically expects you to do, and what can really help you flourish is, are you someone who is proactive, or are you someone who is reactive? Now, being proactive on everything, which is whether be it asking feedbacks, be it giving feedbacks, be it giving ideas and suggestions for improvement, be it connecting with people, be it relating to things, or be it relating or bringing connectedness connected to your workplace, whatever may be the case. What is the kind of language you speak? How do you choose the right set of words to explain to people? Do you speak lengthy statements which people find it difficult to decipher, or are you able to speak short statements which people are able to grasp in a very, very short span of time? All of these things can make a lot of difference. By the way, communication is a very wide topic. I've kept it very, very limited so that I can cover this in this short span of time that we are engaging. Moving to the eighth one is data centricity. Well, let me ask you this question. How many of you think that having data centricity is essential today? Just type yes in the chat box if you feel that data centricity is important. Just type yes in the chat box if you feel that data centricity is important. Okay. So by the time you guys, okay, I see that people are answering yes. Awesome. So data centricity is extremely important. And let me tell you, data centricity has got nothing to do with any role, irrespective of the role that one is in. Right from, see, I'm not even talking about senior management of CEO and so on. For them, obviously, it's important, but even for any level of middle management, any level of junior management, any entry level resource also, irrespective of the role that they are getting into, right from HR to operation to supply chain to logistics, it could be any role, any division. Having a sense of numbers is so important. If you, even if you are in digital marketing, the number centricity is all the more higher, because you have to talk about ROI, you have to talk about CPA. There's so many metrics that one can really relate to. So having and building that sense is extremely important. So I've deliberately written this question: which jobs have this as a requirement? According to me, every single job role today and henceforth from today, data centricity is going to really define the future of workplace environment. Number 9 is being a critical thinker. So what is critical thinking? Critical thinking is really a beautiful skill. It's a skill that can be practiced, that could be learned by anyone. And how can people really learn a skill like this? Well, the way people can learn this skill is by identifying the kind of situation or problem that you might typically be in. Whenever you are in any problem or in any challenging situation, depending upon the kind of situation that you are in, you have to first understand. Then you got to use your thinking to navigate through variety of different situations or alternatives that you have, just like the way we understood in the problem solving approach. Critical thinking, one of the prima facie way to look at critical thinking is, are you someone who responds to situations, or are you someone who reacts to situations? If you are someone who always believes in responding to situations, which means you will think, you will use a combination of your left brain and right brain to analyze and come to conclusions before just jumping into the bandwagon. So every time that you react, it implies that your critical thinking quotient is low. But every time that you respond, that only goes on to say that your critical thinking quotient is high, because you are someone who's always thinking before you act. And anytime that you are thinking before you're acting, which means you're bringing in so much of yourself to that environment, that your ability to solve that problem is extremely high. So how do people with this attribute typically function? Well, such people, what happens with them is they always identify, they always analyze, and they are always a set of people who are known for solving problems. So that is what typically defines people like these. So this is what critical thinking is. And with this, I come to the 10th one, which is the last one, and one of my favorite one, gratitude. So, the moment we talk about the word gratitude, the way I look at gratitude is the word great plus attitude is what is gratitude. Someone who has a great attitude. So I'm saying, just think, if that person starts to practice gratitude, the fact that they have a great attitude, which means they are also the set of people who can practice gratitude. So that is where it all starts from. So this is what great attitude, this is what gratitude is. So what you really see on the screen is really game changer when it comes to gratitude. Can you be someone who can always be thankful to the universe for what you have? Always accepting sportingly for what you are really blessed with. So even when you're working in a work environment, the set of people with whom you engage day in, day out, if you can just be thankful to them for all of their support, the kind of support that they give, the kind of knowledge exchange that you are able to have with him, her, those set of people, that can make so much of difference into your own life. Sharing and then also continuously learning from other people. A lot of times people carry grudges against people. So if you remove the grudges from your heart, what will happen is, more than the other individual, you are going to live a lot more happily. And your own stress levels when it comes to workplace environment at least will come down. And what are the secrets? The moment you think about gratitude, what are the secrets to being in the flow? The biggest secret is mindset. Now, again, the 80-20 rule here. So 80% always lies in taking action. You got to express your gratitude, and that is where taking action comes in. 20% lies in absorbing all the relevant knowledge. And see, a lot of times people tell me that we automatically attract negativity. See, please understand that we are always the average of the set of 5 people with whom we interact with on a day-to-day basis. So if you are someone who will start vibrating at a higher frequency, then automatically your ability to have the right mindset for yourself will be extremely high. Then the next point here is, every job role teaches a skill. A lot of times young people come to me and then say, okay, this particular job, what will this job teach me? Well, the skills that you learn in any job is always transferable to any future job role or any career being chosen. It's like saying that, how do you really punch a paper? How do you really write an email? All of those are skills for life. And then also what's very important is building the right set of relationships with all of these stakeholders can add a lot of value in your life. And you know that these are the set of people who are a blessing in your life. Okay, with this, I come to the last point, which is pause and reflect. To summarize, I would like to quote the famous Chinese philosopher and writer, Lao, and he had beautifully said, to attain knowledge, you got to add things every single day. To attain wisdom, you have to remove things every single day. So, what are the set of things that you are adding to your own life, and what are the set of things that you are removing from your life at this moment is something that you have to decide. I'm sure you must have made note of it. Okay, with this, I'm open to any question and answers. And if you guys enjoyed and learned a lot, I would just like you to write LLL, which is that you are going to be a lifelong learner. Just type LLL, which means that you are going to be a lifelong learner. Thank you so much for all of this. I thoroughly enjoyed your energy, your participation. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much, Vivek. Your energy is really contagious, like it's way above the roof. So up until the end,
Oh,
and the enthusiasm. Thank you so much for that,
thank
and it
you.
was a
Thank
great
you.
learning.
Thank you
Anyone would
so
like
much.
to add value and also ask question?
It was so amazing, Vivek. A lot of new jargon, terminology, and the examples, and that too all in in around 30 minutes. So I have just one question.
Yeah.
We can do offline also. Like
Yeah.
Steve Jobs and others always told that feedback is one of the most important points. And
Right.
speaking
Right.
about organizations, how we can build an effective feedback strategy. I know there is 360-degree surveys we do and all that, right? So
Right.
that is
Right.
one topic that probably I would like Phil and team from LetUsTalkIt to conduct a debate on that topic itself. How to do a
It's
good
a elaborate discussion, Srini, frankly speaking.
yes,
It's an elaborate
organizational
discussion.
feedback. Yeah,
But
yeah.
I would just like to add one point here, Srini, to your question, and that see, one of the big problem today when it comes to feedback, Srini, is that feedbacks for a lot of organizations across the world is actually lip service. Ideally, that shouldn't be the case. And I'm just making a very, very generic statement at this point in time without any hard-coded data in my hands. But the reason I'm saying that is that the real thoughts between managers or between people, it a lot of times doesn't come out. And ideally, that is where there's a challenge when it comes to feedback. And that's the reason why constructive criticism is an important element to be embraced in the workplace environment, because someone at a very junior level could give feedback to a very senior person. And that is where you look at reverse mentoring is growing all over the world. The finest of the fine organizations across the world, the top-notch organizations, have already started to embrace reverse mentoring. This is one of the primary reasons for that, Srini.
Yeah, very well said. I think we'll definitely connect again and we'll have another talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Srini. It would have been nice to see you, but I think your video is not viewable.
Vivek?
Yeah.
My name is Kalidas. Yeah, thank you so much for the presentation. It's so, so engaging.
Yes, thank you, Kalidas. I appreciate that.
I will definitely connect you on the LinkedIn. I noted your address. The URL. Yeah. Is there anything you suggest, like a material for sit and read leisurely?
I have loads of them. You connect with me. I can connect you with loads of materials as well.
Yeah, sure. I just like to sit outside and read leisurely. Yeah, thank you so much.
Absolutely. More than happy. Kalidas, no problem. More than happy.
Hey, Kalidas, actually, when you said sit outside and reading, I just want to say, recently in Michigan, a group of friends were thinking that we will set up a nice, environment and then read Rabindranath Tagore's Gitanjali.
Wow.
Because I think you seem to be like-minded, but I think you left from Michigan, I guess.
Yeah, right? I did, but I visit every year. At least I visited last year. But I'll be visiting hopefully in this summer also.
Good.
Michigan is a place where close to the heart. Yeah. So I'll connect with you, Srini. Thank you so much.
Yes. So are there any other questions? So Satya says, please come back. Yes, Satya, thank you so much for welcoming me back. Thank you so much, Satya. I also see Manmohan Pillai. I think Manmohan Pillai was here. So Manmohan, you have invited me. Thank you so much, Manmohan, for having me here on this show. Thank you, Manmohan.
Yes, Manmohan is one of the rock stars in the LetUsTalkIt ecosystems, moving things.
Well, Srini, let me tell you, Manmohan has always been like this. Me and Manmohan, we date back to for a long. We have worked together at Reliance Retail. So when Manmohan proposed me this, I said for sure, Manmohan, more than happy to do that. So Srini, it'd be nice if you and your team can actually give in your reviews as well on LinkedIn and other platforms, if that's possible.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you. If there are other questions, happy to take up. Else, Phil, over to you for the
All right.
for getting pleasure.
Thank you so much. So that's really perfect. Thank you, everyone. And right now, so we will move to the next topic for today, which is well, it's really a trend because of the pandemic and all the happenings and all that. So many things. Now, the topic is being a journalist in difficult times. Really, it's been difficult already, and how could it be difficult in difficult times? Now, this topic will be given to us by Aniki Ade, Funky Trisher, and she is a first female journalist to manage all news radio station in the Nigerian network, and indeed the Nigerian broadcast industry. She is the pioneer elected vice president and acting president of Pan Atlantic University School of Communication. So it is a great an honor. It's really an honor and a great pleasure for us to hear this topic from Aniki. And please take over.
Thank you very much, Phil. Good evening, everyone. Can you all hear me? If you can, just say yes in the chat box.
Yes, pleasure. I can hear you clearly.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks very much for inviting me. Thank you very much, Vivek. You did a fantastic job. I was writing while you were presenting. One of the things I loved about your presentation was that you talked about learning, unlearning, and relearning. And that is the bedrock of growth anywhere, in anything that one does. If one is not able to relearn and unlearn, you're going to have problems growing. So thank you for that. I love the 8th, 9th, and 10th points that you gave: data centricity, critical thinking, and gratitude. Those are my top 3.
Thank you so much. Glad that it connected and resonated with you so beautifully, Treasure. Thank you so much, Treasure.
Thank you so much. Well, I bring you greetings from Nigeria. My friends will have joined, but I'm hoping that the YouTube recording will suffice for them. Right, so I'm going to be talking about being a journalist in difficult times, and Phil already said it's difficult already being a journalist, and then you add to it difficult times, and you wonder, how are journalists coping presently in contemporary times? I'd like to start with this quote by Thomas Sadowski. He said, "Journalism and the questions of journalistic ethics and why certain stories are put on the air, when, how, and for what reasons are big questions in our culture and society." I don't know about your culture and society, but framing the news and the actors in the making of the news is a big deal anywhere in the world. So this is my outline. I'll be talking about how journalists have managed to maintain global best practices in these difficult circumstances and times. We'll talk about freedom of press in journalism. I'll also focus on the peculiar challenges in Nigeria and also draw inferences from other places across the world. When a politician who should be investigated is your boss, how are you going to be reporting? And then again, the question, is the Nigerian press free? I'll be looking at impunity, harassment, and raids. Finally, and quite central to my presentation today, I will be talking about the political economy of the media in Nigeria, which has to do with media ownership and control. So at that juncture, I'll be looking at economic strangulation, advertising support, editorial independence. And with all of these, are we wringing our arms? No, yes. you get to find out. And then what are the solutions to these difficulties in maintaining global best practices in journalism in Nigeria? So with that, that's my complete outlook. Let's dig in. Well, someone said journalism is a vaccine against disinformation. And in the data I checked out while preparing for this about World Press Freedom Day, more than 130 countries have managed to block one thing or the other to make it difficult for journalists to operate. When I say block one thing or the other, either they're making it difficult to access credible sources, or they're making it difficult to have access to vital information and documents. In addition to that, you find that there is the online market, the online news market, as globally is unregulated, maybe in Asian countries like China, but generally it's unregulated. And so there is a lot of fake information, a lot of fake news and propaganda going on. An average journalist has to contend with that, has to check and double check. Otherwise, it will be a monumental embarrassment for not only that journalist, but also the organization that he works for. If you look at the charts in my right-hand corner there, I don't know, your right-hand corner, you see press freedom in 5 countries in 2022. So, I mean, this is the latest ranking. You see the 5 continents there. You see the ranking: good, satisfactory, problematic, difficult, and very serious. Difficult is in red. You see that a lot of each of those continents are being shaded in red, which means every continent is grappling with some difficulty or the other in the practice of journalism there. If you look at the second slide, you see the global overview of journalism. As I said earlier, journalists are working under immense pressure. You see that during COVID-19 pandemic, journalists were together with health workers at the forefront of getting the right information across to the people. If we're not contending with a pandemic, we're contending with conflicts here and there. There are pockets of conflicts all over the world. Nigeria has its fair share. We're looking at unknown gunmen. We're contending against the Boko Haram terrorist group. We're contending against IPOB, and so on and so forth. And it's not limited to Nigeria alone. There is also political uncertainty almost everywhere in Africa. In Nigeria, we're looking at the presidential elections. Who's going to be our next president? That seemed to be what is taking the attention of everyone in Nigeria, including journalists. And then in addition to that, you begin to look at economic meltdown. A journalist is not dissociated from the environment of the society where he works. So the economic meltdown has a direct impact on the practice of journalism as well. If you surf the internet and look at news coming from different nations, you see that we are losing journalists almost every month and every year, most definitely. Some of these deaths results as a result of government oppression. Sometimes the targeted journalists are targeted by organized crime or drug cartels. And in many places, they die in wars and conflict zone. You look at the map over there, you see the Freedom of the Press Worldwide 2022 ranking. The entire map there, you see Nigeria is painted in red. So these are difficult times to be a journalist in Nigeria. Let's move on now to some of the people who've been lost in the past. That's Brent Renaud. He was the first casualty reported worldwide, filmmaker who was killed in Ukraine. Over there is Shireen, who was recently Al Jazeera reporter who lost her life covering a conflict area. And over there is a Nenche. This happened a long time ago with one of our most credible TV stations in Nigeria. But the point is, he lost his life while covering a story. So you see, whether It's in Africa, Asia, India, I think it is one of Asia, the United States, wherever you are in the world, journalists are daily exposed to deaths. If they're not having death threats, they are seeing death face to face in covering their beats. So I go to the state of journalism precisely in Nigeria. Over there you see the yellow bus. I use that to depict the Nigerian economy. Lagos is the buzz, is a center. How do I describe it? As a commercial nerve center of Nigeria. A lot goes on in Nigeria. The capital of the media in Nigeria is Lagos, where I am speaking from this evening. So let's look at the state of journalism. Pertinent questions that I like to address: is the Nigerian press free? I know you'd like to know whether we are actually free or not. I think to a reasonable extent, the Nigerian press is free, but there's a big but there. So let's go on to the buts. How safe is the Nigerian press? By this, I mean the organizations that experience raids from government operatives, that experience threats from the big men in the society, and how safety conscious is the average Nigerian journalist? Does he have access to safety trainings on safety? No. The intersection of journalism and activism is also something I'd like to also touch on. The politicization of journalism. You know what? In Nigeria today, you find that, and I'm coming to that in weaponization of poverty. I'm trying not to be ahead of myself. But yes, safety of journalists. I've already spoken on that. The politicization of journalism, what do I mean by that? You find the practice whereby news organizations are organizing awards for politicians they are investigating. So in 1 minute, they're saying this person has embezzled this person is not giving accounts for this and that. We're looking at accountability and governance. The next minute, you're assembling the same politicians and giving them awards for good governance. So you see the politicization going, the politics going on even in journalism. And you look at the intersection of journalism and activism, you begin to ask yourself, as a journalist, do I begin to fight for the people or report and just publish my story or let my story go either on TV, online, or radio and leave it at that? You find that it's not easy in difficult times for journalists to be continually separated, unbiased from the environment and the news that they're covering. Reporting a beat with political correctness in favor of the big boss is predominant in Nigeria at the moment, because we find that in the political economy of the media in Nigeria, you find, and what is political economy of the media, by the way? We're talking of power relations, we're talking of control. So when you're looking at the power relations and the control, you as a journalist working for an organization where the owner is a big, huge, famous politician who has who the people are continually wanting to find out this and that about. You work for him. You can't work on that story. Even if you cover that story, you cannot give it depth. The treatment that you give that story will be very light in order not to indict your media organization's owner. So we look at government, but let me speak on weaponization of poverty for a minute here. As I said earlier, Lagos is the nerve center, the commercial nerve center of Nigeria. A journalist is not bigger than the economy where he operates from. And if you look at the recent ranking of Nigeria, it said that it's the poverty capital of the world. The journalist operating out of the poverty capital of the world is not immune from the pervading poverty in that country. So you find the indignities of monthly pay, how much is a regular average journalist being paid, and is it regular, is this payment regular? These are ethical issues that the the body of journalism or different bodies of journalism in Nigeria have been working at, but no solution in sight yet for that. They're still negotiating with different organizations, don't owe journalist salaries, and please, can we increase the monthly take home of a regular journalist, an average journalist in Nigeria. You look at adverts in newspapers, in TVs, on radio, even online, there's a lot of government patronage. You don't want to bite the hand that feeds you. So you want to be careful with the kind of stories you do. Even when you're reporting the government, you try to find a balance, because at the end of the day, you're still going to need the government to place adverts in your newspaper, on your radio, or on TV. So there is something called economic strangulation, if you're not careful, and corruption. So economic strangulation is that you play safe. Otherwise, you'll be, out of the market in no time. This is what happened to one of the newspapers, fantastic newspaper back then, but it folded up. It went under because it refused to compromise. It refused to rely on government patronage. It kept speaking to truth to power. And at some point, it was muscled out of the media market. So if a media organization doesn't want low advertising support and the strangulation of its own media enterprise, its own enterprise, you play safe. It's a difficult time to be. It wasn't always like this in Nigeria. So I move on to how difficult really it is. I've touched on some of them: threats, insults, attacks. These are occupational hazards in many countries, according to Reporters Sans Frontières, which is Reporters Without Borders. There's a lot of hostilities, especially during political campaigns and rallies. You find that journalists are the ones whose cameras are seized and manhandled and all of that. So there's incredible hostilities against the journalists, especially by the political class. And this brings fear and the issue of safety, which I spoke about earlier, about the journalists, to the forefront again. In the case of Nigeria, you find a lot of governors. These are independent power brokers who manage the different states in Nigeria. They're very powerful. And these, according to Reporters Without Borders again, are the most determined persecutors because they act with complete impunity. I come to the structural difficulties that we have. I've already spoken to ownership and control, and then the dependence on major funding resources. If government is the biggest customers or clients, because they place a lot of adverts on your TV or radio or newspaper, you want to be careful. Mutual interest as well between the media and those who make the news. I talked about framing earlier. Those who have the power to define the news and explain what it means. There has to be, that mutual interest and mutual understanding between this group of people. Now, here in the next slide, I am looking at what Chomsky, for those who are familiar with communication or media studies, Chomsky has a seminal work on the political economy of media ownership. Now, this is the biggest challenge to ethical best practices all over the world, especially in Nigeria, where you find professionals working for media enterprises owned by politicians. And in Nigeria today, many politicians own radio stations, newspapers, and other media outlets, especially newspapers and radio stations, and also TV stations. How can a journalist working in these media organizations owned by politicians adhere to global best practices when they're being paid by those they should be investigating? So we have examples like The Nation, the TVC, that's Television Continental, owned by politicians, The Sun, owned by politicians, independent newspapers owned by a politician. How do you think journalists working in these places can effectively criticize the government or the parties that these politicians are affiliated with? So it's a little complex for the Nigerian journalists. Again, I've talked about the power relations in political economy such that the professional is at the mercy of the political ruling class, which presently in Nigeria has no regard for rules or ethics. And then are we wringing our arms and in despair? No, certainly not. In spite of all that I've said, there are incredible, excellent professionals in Nigeria and absolutely professional media organizations as well. For newspapers, you'll find those who have not compromised the integrity of the practice, the journalism practices include The Guardian, you find The Punch, you find Daily Trust. These have been uncompromising and relentless in criticizing and critiquing acts of misgovernance and accountability where these are not upheld. In terms of TV, I'd spoken about a young man who lost his life covering conflicts from the Channels television station. But Channels television over and over again have been rated the best TV stations in Nigeria. I think they've done it like 12 times now, powered by professional and with a lot of professionals working there, global best practices upheld there, discipline on air and off air. So it's one of the exciting places to work in Nigeria. If you look at Nigeria Info, which is some sort of a radio network owned by non-politicians now, it's tried to make the public sphere an expansive place, an inclusive place for all to be engaged and to be involved in the issues pertaining to the nation and the welfare of the people. Online, the alternative media online, you talk about Premium Times, the cable, and so on and so forth. These have been holding the torch of professional ethics and global best practices in their work in journalism. And it's not just this, we have independent journalists as well who have pulled out of media organizations that are on their own, and they're investigating and making landslide investigations, shaking the entire country. One of them is Fisayo Shoyombo. So we're not wringing our arms in Nigeria, we're actually working against the tide to make sure that we continue to be the fourth estate of the realm, holding the judiciary, the legislature, and the executive to account. And in conclusion, I'll speak to the solutions that I think we critically need. Vivek was talking about critical thinking the other time. So these are the critical things that we need to continue to navigate the difficult times and the difficult waters that we've found ourselves, not only in Nigeria, but across the world. To prioritize the defense of quality journalism every time, everywhere. The Nigerian journalist is saying, yeah, I'm seeing whistleblowers aren't safeguarded anymore. Yes, even in Nigeria here. So if you're a whistleblower, you've got to watch your back, because you're not sure that the people you're telling the story to or you're telling on don't have spies where you've gone to. So it's a very difficult time because there's corruption everywhere. So quality journalism must continually be upheld. We will continue to prioritize that, as some of these other media organizations and professionals are doing already. So we need support for existing credible professionals and media organizations, which I've talked about, to continue to do their work fearlessly and to continue to be representative of the fourth estate of the realm. Again, we look at investment in credible media run by professionals who are committed to global best practices, people like Fisayo Shoyombo, who exemplify this category of people. There are quite a number of them, but we cannot, those of us abroad in the diaspora, or those of us Nigerians in the diaspora, and some of you who are watching now, must not let must not leave journalists alone in these troubled times across the world. We must continually support people like me, for instance, I'm in that category, who's retired from government practice, who's pulled out from the government organization and is now on my own or on his own. We need that support from the outside to say, we know the quality of the work you can do. We're going to support you to stand on your own and make the difference that the world needs. Investment also in credible media run by professionals who are committed to global best practices. It costs a lot to report. It costs a lot to be in journalism and to keep being there. It's a lot of money. So we need continual investment so that they're not run out of business. Support in training. I talked about safety of journalists. Most journalists, many journalists don't know the very basic in terms of safety. There's safety on the field, whether they're reporting from the grassroots, whether they're reporting in a conflict region. They just know the very basic, run for your life, don't do this. But there are advanced level in protecting the protection of journalists and the safety of journalists as well. So we need support in sustained and targeted trainings for journalists to cope with reporting in unsafe areas and times, and also to empower journalists to own media enterprises. I've spoken to that already. And finally, independent funding for reporting, investigative expeditions, and people-oriented features. I've been a beneficiary of that, so I know what I'm talking about. Back in 2008, I think, I was in the Netherlands for a course in training the trainer as a media professional. And while we were there, Michael Smith then and I got funding to report human trafficking in Germany and in Nigeria. So it was a North and South collaboration in the report of human trafficking. And what we did was to bring in German journalists from Germany to Nigeria, two places where human trafficking is endemic, and to start their stories from there. Then we took Nigerian journalists to Frankfurt, to Berlin in Germany for the second leg of the story. So we found a German journalist and a Nigerian journalist collaborating, working on one story. We had about 12 to a story. Now, this is independent funding for reporting. We need more of this sort of thing for us to be able to move forward as journalists, independent of government, independent of politicians, so we can do our jobs without bias and without fear or favor. So that's what I have for you. I'm going to pause so that we can ask questions. The next slide says, thank you very much. Over there is my book for children. It's titled Memories of Grandma. I just wanted to share that with you. You can buy those online. Right, yes, fighting for truth is like, I couldn't see that. Great summary. Thank you very much, Srini. Thank you. Yeah, so if you have questions, I'll be willing.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Treasure. That's really an eye-opening session that you have given to us. And yeah, that's really correct. Like, I'm from the Philippines, and what you have just mentioned regarding corruption and all that, it's also present here. So it's very visible. Even if you're not that much to the degree of your education, you will really notice how it's how it's really vivid. So for those who'd like to interact, like add their insights or ask questions, please feel free to do so.
Treasure, if I may ask one question to you. So first of all, Treasure, compliments to you. Very insightful presentation, bringing the real life stories and real life perspectives of what's really happening in Nigeria. Okay, so compliments to you on that. My question to you, Treasure, is that how do the localites really grapple with all of these corruptions that are associated with the country? See, that's always nice to understand another perspective of another country, because I know while you were talking about this entire media fraternity and journalism for the country of Nigeria, I was trying to kind of link that with my country, with India, just to understand, okay, what are the parallels and stuff like that. So would you like to share some insight there, Treasure?
Well, if I understand your question, you want to know how we're coping with the humongous corruption emanating from Nigeria. I mean, the other day we were hearing about some accountant general going away with 80 billion naira. A former president has been, all that he stole from the country is still being repatriated about 20 years later. I mean,
Right.
it just tells you that Nigeria is an incredibly wealthy country, right? And for the amount of money that has been pilfered from the country, outrightly stolen from the country is still not broke. And every day you hear of billions of naira, billions of dollars being recovered from somebody or being traced to a politician, a public servant. And then you wonder, as a journalist, it is wearying. It is tiring. It's difficult to continue to investigate. And sometimes you just see that these politicians who you have beamed your searchlight on just go and join the ruling party and they get off the hook. And so you wonder, so why do I keep investigating? It doesn't make sense. It's not taking us anywhere. So that again is difficult because on the mental state of the journalist, you find that the journalist is increasingly getting depressed about his work because it seems that you're just making motion without movement. You're moving, but you're not leaving the same place. That can be debilitating to the mental health of the journalist. So we all just open our mouths in wonder. You mean this amount of money? Yeah.
Cool.
That's it.
For that. Thanks.
All right, that's perfect. Anyone else would like to share their insights or ask question? I'll stop sharing now. All right, so okay. Well, I think this concludes today. Thank you so much, speakers, for the enthusiasm, the energy, and the experience, the knowledge for this session that you have shared with us, and for the attendees with our in our Zoom, and also for YouTube and Facebook. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us in this session. And also, we also wanted to let you know that we have youth webinars as well in this forum, but the younger generations talk about the topics in their age. So you can register in our website. That's www.letustalkit.com/youth in order to support them and encourage them to give value in their age bracket as well. So we hope to see you again at the same time next Wednesday. So it happens every Wednesday for 2 new topics and 2 new wonderful speakers. So we thank you for attending this webinar today, and we hope you all very well. Thank you so much, Vivek and Treasure. If you wish to collaborate or connect with them offline, please feel free to do so. You can get in touch with us, the Let Us Talk It team, or you can go ahead through LinkedIn. They're very responsive.
Thank you so much, Phil. My gratitude to you, to Julan, to Manmohan, and to the entire team here. Thank you so much. I can see Srini here. Thank you so much, Srini. And Ravi is not here. So Srini and Ravi, thank you so much for all the encouragement. And to all the other members who have participated wholeheartedly, it means a lot. Thank you so much. And nice to listen and understand your perspective. Treasure, once again, compliments and thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. It's a pleasure being here and sharing my perspectives about journalism in my home country with you. Thank you so much for inviting me. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you all. Take care.
Thank you, everyone. Goodbye for now.
Bye.